guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Laura, I'm 31, and I currently live, and I'm filming this from a small town in northwestern Ontario, but I can't remember when. I have every video until like the end of January planned, and I'm like doing a lot of pre-filming and stuff like that at the moment, so I'm not 100% sure when this is going up. Today we are going to be using some clips that I've taken throughout the year to share a realistic look at like what a job hunt for a public servant type job can look like. So sorry, my background is so I studied my undergrad in agriculture, specifically in animal science and Spanish, and then I worked, I guess we'll do like a little bit of history. I worked on a turkey farm right after graduation in like poultry genetics, and then I got a job in a small animal vet clinic because I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then I went back to school and got my master's in public health. And during that time I kept working at that small animal clinic because I really did think I still wanted to be a veterinarian. And then I had 2 placements in my master's. I did one at the College of Veterinarians of Ontario, which is like the governing body that regulates veterinarians in the province, and another placement at the Public Health Agency of Canada. And then after graduation from that, I worked for the summer part-time at the vet clinic again, and then part-time at CVO, the College of Veterinarians of Ontario again. And then in September, I went full-time back to the vet clinic, and then 2020 happened and all of that. And I had this public health degree, and I was like, I feel like I should be using this public health degree to contribute to the public health effort that is so desperately needed right now. And that's how I got this job up in Northern Ontario. First as a health promoter, and then as an emergency preparedness coordinator. So that's like pandemic planning, infectious disease outbreak, smoke event, stuff like that, like health emergencies. And then now I have a new job that I'm not going to tell you about yet, although you can probably find it. But this kind of like public servant, public health job hunt. And because I was mostly looking at public health jobs, there was such a spike of public health funding during the COVID pandemic, and then such a decrease. But at the same time, there's also a crisis in what we call health human resources. So the people who work in both frontline healthcare, so that's your hospital workers, your clinic workers, stuff like that, and public health, because the entire industry is so burnt out and traumatized, honestly, like truly, from the COVID-19 pandemic, and burnt out from the COVID-19 pandemic. And then the way that like the public kind of turned on the healthcare workers during the public health pandemic or COVID-19 pandemic has like really had kind of a devastating impact on healthcare and the people who work in healthcare. And that's why, or not totally why, but that's partly why healthcare is the way it is at the moment. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. But the reason I was talking about that is because whenever public health gets a lot of funding when there's an emergency or a public health issue that's like really dominating the public's perspective, and like the public eye or like the media is giving a certain health issue a lot of attention, and then when that stops happening, governments cut funding to public health. So I moved up here in March 2021. And at the time it was for a year contract. So no, I knew that it can take a year to get a job. So I never really stopped applying for jobs. And I also knew that like I didn't want to settle down up here. I don't want to live up here permanently. And so I was applying for jobs that would get me back into Southern Ontario or internationally. There's an organization that's based out of France that I would like actually sell my soul to work for, but I've gotten really close multiple times, so at least they know I exist, I guess. But anyways, so starting this year, I started taking clips Not of every time I applied to a job, because that would have been crazy. I applied to so many jobs, which we will go through, even though I didn't document all of them. But I started making clips of whenever I got positive feedback to a job application. So I could have been invited to do a pre-interview screening of some kind, like a test or an assignment, or invited for an interview. So first, I'm going to show you my template that I use for tracking. It's in my Notion. And I just used a free Notion provided template. So let's get in here. So you can see that I documented that in 2023. Okay, so I started this last November. And so I really just started using Notion. So in the last year, I've applied to 15 jobs. And I would probably put that closer to 20 because I can think of at least 3 that aren't on here. So I applied to about 20 jobs. To some people, that's probably not a lot, especially if you've been impacted by tech layoffs or anything like that in America. But for the stage in my career that I'm at, so I'm no longer I'm still early in my career objectively, but I'm also not brand new anymore. So, and I didn't, with the cost of living and knowing my rent's very affordable. If you watch my monthly resets, you know that my rent is $975 a month. That doesn't include any utilities. So in reality, my living expenses are closer to $1,500. But I knew that I was never, if I moved back to Southern Ontario or to Paris, which is where this organization that I would die to work for is, rent's not going to be under 1,000 Canadian dollars anywhere I go. So, unless I live with people, of course, which I don't really want to do. So I knew that I didn't want to decrease in pay. I could probably have found something faster if I had been willing to sacrifice on pay. And I also was only applying to jobs in locations that had within an hour access to an international airport because I want to go see my grandparents, and Pilates studios / spin studios, nice coffee shops, a bookstore, and a library. So those are my town requirements. And then the salary or the hourly wage, depending on the job, had to be enough to allow me to do those things. So I don't want to just live somewhere and never be able to do anything. So those were my requirements, I guess. And then I really wanted to be in public health, but I was open to other public servant type jobs within my area of expertise. So you can see I applied to research services, public health communications, public health policy, health promotion. This one was kind of an out of the box one. This was a meeting and events project manager, but it was for an animal health organization. So epidemiologist, health educator, policy advisor, project managers, research analysts, all within public health. So this is, I'm pretty sure I just searched, it's been a while, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure I just searched job application tracker in the Notion template thing and got this. So I do keep my resume in here. This is, it says current, but it's definitely out of date. And then I don't have a generic cover letter that I use. And I wouldn't recommend that anybody have a generic cover letter that they use, but so you write in the company and what stage you're at, so applied, and then you can see, so this actually didn't have pre-assignment in here. I added that as a thing because that's what we do, or what a lot of places do. So you can see most of these are applied. I never heard from them after that. I got 2 interviews and 1 pre-assignment out of, well, I guess I got 3 interviews, 1 pre-assignment out of about 20 jobs. And then this is what the position is. This is the date that I applied so that I could remember when can I reasonably give up hope about this job. Although the job that I got I interviewed for in March. So, and I got the offer in September, mid-September. So maybe take it with a grain of salt. But it's a good way to gauge whether or not you should give up on a job. And then the resume that I submitted is linked in here. The cover letter I submitted for most of them is linked in here, not all. And then the link to the job website. However, most companies take them down. If it's a government job, they have to leave them up for public record. But if it's a private sector job or even like a public health unit job, they will get deleted after the window is open. So I would recommend downloading them and saving them to your computer so that you can refer back to them whenever, if you get an interview. So, having shown you that, let's roll the tapes.
Okay, good morning. It is Thursday, March 21st, and I have a job interview today. I'm really hoping, oh, there we go, that's better. I'm getting really nervous. Yeah, hopefully this will make it into a video somewhere at some point. Excuse my appearance, but it is 9:30 on Good Friday morning. Ooh, alfalfa sprouts up there. And I am eating my Easter weekend breakfast, but I just handed in my test, my pre-interview test for a really exciting job. So, who knows? Let's go. Okay, another update in the job hunt. It's September 26th of 2024, and I just signed an offer. I also was supposed to have a job interview tomorrow, but my voice is unreliable at best at the moment. So I've rescheduled that for next Thursday, which it seems a little wrong to do, but I'm going to. But I have a feeling I'm sticking with the job that I've signed with, but it's nice to have options. And now I have to write a resignation letter. That's tonight's problem. We'll check in this evening. Okay, so I'm gonna close this soon, but I wanted to share my resignation letter, because I was having a really hard time like finding resources to write one. So I kept it short and sweet. Like this paragraph, unless you're like in my situation where you have a bunch of works property at home, which you might be if you are in a work from home job, but you're probably like able-bodied and able to return it. So I have a bunch of stuff from home that I'm physically not able to return on my own, so I addressed that. But basically, that's it. Dear your manager, I'm writing to inform you that I've decided to resign from my position as your job title in department. My last day will be your last day. I want to thank you all for the opportunities that I've had over the past 3.5 years working with Place, and for your understanding as I took medical leave and returned to work after my hip surgery over the past few months, because I've literally only been back at work 5 weeks. Yeah, and then, just nice things. So it's official. So yeah, I start my new job on October 15th. I should have to move, but because I'm still on crutches and like physically unable to, they are going to let me start remote. And then once I'm cleared to like drive, fly, pick up boxes, then we move. So I guess this is the end of the job hunt video. I can't believe those words just left my mouth, honestly. I need to decide if I'm keeping the interview that I have next week. So maybe it's not the end, because I think I'll probably need to update y'all on that. I have to start telling people now. Okay. Off to the Teams chat. Let's go. Ooh. Okay, that lighting's slightly terrifying. But I haven't done an update on the
job thing in a minute. So I had, around the same time that I was getting the verbal offer for the job I have accepted, I got an offer for an interview for a different position. And because I only had the verbal offer, I initially accepted the interview. However, I have since received and signed the written offer. So I'm just sending an email to withdraw from the interview, which feels insane. Like, actually feels insane. But I have a job in a city I'd prefer to live in. So I probably should have done this like a day ago, but I don't know. I was considering still doing it in case I ended up liking the sound of the job better, but I'm definitely sure I would prefer the city I have the job that I've signed for in than the city that I would be in if I got this job that I'd be interviewing for. So I wasn't expecting this to be part of the job hunt process.
So now you're back to present day. I already told you that I have a new job. And it does meet all of the requirements that I had. And I mean, I've only done my first week, and it was a short week because of Thanksgiving. So we've only had 4 days on the job. And I'm not in the office yet. I won't be in office until probably the new year at the earliest. So yeah, I don't really have anything to say about that, but I hope that this can be reassuring or also potentially alarming if you're starting your job hunt and you're like, this bitch spent 3 years applying to jobs, and like I have been told by recruiters that it has been like between me and one other person, and like, can they keep my resume on file and stuff like that. And I never know if they're being honest or not in those situations, but I like to assume the best in people. I'm assuming that if they're telling me it's between me and one other person and the other person was an internal hire, and actually I do know in that particular example, I know she was an internal hire, and to be honest, 90% of the time, if it's between you and an internal candidate, the internal candidate is going to get it. There's so much less onboarding and training and explaining and less cost associated with hiring an internal candidate. So if it's down to you and somebody they already employ just in a different position, the internal candidate is going to get that job. Like almost all the time. So don't get discouraged if you lose out on jobs to internal candidates. It makes so much more sense for the organization to hire internally, and it's much more logical for them. So to be honest, losing out on a job to an internal candidate doesn't really say very much about you. So yeah, the job hunt can be really, really, really discouraging. Like, those were just the jobs that I had applied to since November of last year. I am not lying whenever I say that I never stopped applying for jobs, even though I worked for my previous organization for almost 4 years, 3.5 years. I never stopped applying for jobs in that time because there were things that I wanted that I wasn't getting out of my positions with them. So I don't know, I was hoping for a neater tie-up, but there kind of isn't one. Like, my current position, the job that I just started, is only an 18-month contract. I'm not applying for jobs right now. I'm not even really looking. But if something really cool were to come up, yeah, I would throw my resume and cover letter in. And I don't know, like, my parents are both self-employed. Like, they have a farm. They haven't applied for jobs since they were probably 20, 19 even. Like, at least since they came to North America. So mid-20s, probably before then. And I didn't really have anybody to explain that. And I also think that things have changed a lot since our parents, like Gen X, were looking for jobs, and even older millennials, because the first group of millennials graduated into a financial crisis, especially in America and the UK. So like their experience was totally different. But I think that I didn't know going into being in like corporate culture, I guess, corporate Canada, just how much time you would spend looking for jobs, applying to jobs, writing cover letters, because the era of working in one organization or working for one company for your entire life is over. And I also think that's a good thing. I think you can make more money that way because you will have much more significant raises. You will almost always have much more significant raises moving from organization to organization than you will by staying in an organization, getting promoted, or receiving your merit increase annually or something like that. Like if you want to improve your income, you need to be applying for jobs at other companies and negotiating your job offers. Actually, those are the two things you need to do if you want to improve your income. But other than that, it takes time, and it really does take a lot of work. Like, I would log off my work computer, come home, do my chores, eat my dinner, open up my personal computer, and scroll through jobs every single night. Whenever I signed this offer, I didn't know what to do with my time. I was like, what do I do now? And still, I'm like still kind of bewildered by how much free time I have every evening because I'm not applying to jobs constantly. So that's the video, and I apologize if my appearance was jarring in any of those clips, but that's how my job hunt went for the past year, and that's all. If you have any questions about job hunting or public health or anything like that, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below. And thank you so much for watching, and if you liked this, consider subscribing. This isn't my usual content, I will admit that, but it felt right. So, have a good day. Bye.